via Task Manager. Okay? So from the Task Manager, dyan nyo nakikita yung mga services ng operating systems. Okay? So you can see the processes running. Okay? The performance, right now we are running how many processes here? Okay, CPU, we are running 198 processes. Okay, so basically this is one of the service provided by the operating systems that we can control the computer, that we can see the performance, that we can see the resource allocations. Okay, now aside from that, along with the operating system services, okay, so the operating systems provides a system interface or a user interface. Now, just imagine how can we possibly run a program without the interfaces. Okay, so I cannot imagine you controlling your computer using CLI, okay, or using Shell, okay, or PowerShell. Okay, so I don't know if you're familiar with PowerShell, no? This is the version of command prompt. So yung nakikita nyo sa screen nyo, that is a PowerShell, and the old version of it is basically the command prompt. So PowerShell is something that is new, and the future of Windows operating systems will be using PowerShell. Okay, but then as usual, the command prompt is there. Okay, but then there are commands that still works on the PowerShell. No? For instance, directory. Directory is, that would show you the stored applications or programs on your hard disk. Is it working here? Yes. Okay, so you can have it there. Now, the advantage of PowerShell is this. This is something like compatible to Unix. Okay, the Unix command list, okay, or LS is not working on command prompt. Okay, wherein here LS is working fine. Now, what is LS? LS is the same with dir. Okay, so basically, the operating systems gives you two options to run applications. It's either via the CLI or the command line interface like PowerShell or the command prompt, or it would give you something like an icon, a graphical user interface wherein you could just click the applications and run it. Okay? So those are the operating system services and a lot more. So basically, one of the service provided by the operating system, it allows the user to manage the peripherals, okay, via device manager. All right. Okay. So the next topic or subtopics under operating system services would be the system call. Okay. Now, what is a system call? Basically, when you say system call, okay, so these are the functionalities or services of operating systems that allows us to run services of the given operating systems. For instance, I'm going to print. Okay? You don't have to create a code para makapag-print ka. So we are just calling the functions or the services of the operating systems para magamit natin. So those are system calls. Okay? If we run to close the application, di ba? We are using the function close. Okay? Dot close or dot open. Okay? So yung mga functions na yan, tatawagin nyo na lang. No? You don't have to create your own function. Okay? Katulad nung tinype natin kanina, directory dir, you are just calling that function para makita mo yung laman ng hard disk mo. So those are just system calls. Okay? So programmers nowadays are using system calls. Okay? So yung latest or the recent term being used for system calls, they call it API. Okay, tinatawag na lang ng mga programmers yung mga API na yan para gamitin. They don't have to create their own codes or programs just to set the functionality of the device. Okay? So ang tawag po natin doon, system calls. Okay? Now, another thing is system services. Okay? Ano yung mga system services? System services are the operating system services provided by your OS to the applications installed on the computer. Okay? So take note that one of the service of the operating system is to give link between the resources and the applications running to the user. So again, hindi na kailangan gumawa ni programmer ng kung ano-anong code just to link them or integrate them. We just have to call the functionality of the operating systems. So basically, all the operations that you do, all the operations that you can do inside the system is already provided by the operating systems. Okay? And one of those services would be the linkers and the loaders. Ano yung linkers and loaders? Okay. So basically, you are using linkers already. Okay? Linkers and loaders. For instance, you are doing programming and you are using C++. Okay? So C++ is basically a source code and the computer doesn't understand it. Now, we are doing something para maintindihan ng computer yan. Okay? Anong ginagawa natin? Anong ginagawa nyo sa CPP nyo para mag-run? Anyone? What do you use or what do you do on C++ para mapatakbo nyo yung code nyo na hello world?
Include, sir.
Include? Anong ginagawa nyo? Let's say, tapos ka na mag-type ng program. Anong next na ginagawa nyo? Tingnan nga natin ang mga computer engineering or computer engineers of the future. Hanggang saan? Let's see. Compile. All right. You are compiling it. Anong nangyayari during compilation? Matanong ko nga lang kayo. What is the purpose of compilation? Anong purpose ng compilation? Bakit kayo nagko-compile? Or pag nag-compile kayo, ano yung output? Anong nangyayari sa file? Anyone? Ano pong nangyayari sa file as a file when you compile?
Sir, para ma-execute niya.
Ma-execute? Nagra-run ba pag nag-compile ka? Di ba hindi? Hindi naman tumatakbo. Anong nangyayari during compile?
Sir, try.
Yeah, go.
Yan, huwag ka maingay. Sir, nakikita yung syntax and logical errors.
Okay. Pag lumabas yung syntax and logical errors, so kino-correct natin. Pero that is not the mere purpose of compiling. Okay? Halimbawa, gumagana, walang syntax errors. Okay? What you can see actually during compilation are the syntax errors. Pero yung mga logical errors, yung pagkakamali ng programmer sa logic, hindi niya minamark yun as incorrect. Okay, now, assuming na walang error, you compile your program successfully, zero errors, zero warning, anong nangyayari? What happened during compilation? Assuming that there is no error. You are using linker, okay, or compiler to do that. In assembly language, you are using assembler, okay, to convert that ASM, di ba? ASM ang source. So you are using assembler, yan, to do that. Ano pong napoproduce pag nag-compile kayo? Hindi nyo tinitingnan? You should be very aware because you are computer engineering. When you compile a source program, ano napoproduce? Object code. That's correct. Okay? Nagpo-produce po yan ng object file. Okay? And object file is something that is, well, hindi mo maintindihan yan. Ang naiintindihan natin is yung source. We understand the source, but the object is not. Okay? Now, that object file needs to be built. Okay? Para magkaroon ka ng executable. Dapat maging exe yan para ma-run mo. Okay? And those are loaders. Okay? Yung mga directives that you have included on your program, something like sharp include IOStream, stdio, kung ano-ano man yan, those are loaders. And that is being loaded by the operating systems once you run your program after compilation. So those services are provided by the operating systems. Okay? So, nandoon na yon, no? Kumbaga, hindi mo na kailangan gumawa ng codes para doon. You just have to call it via system calls. Okay? Yung po yung nasabi sa linkers and loaders. Okay. Next, let me ask you this. Why applications are OS specific? Can anyone answer that? What do you mean by that? Why applications are OS specific? What I'm saying is, once na gumawa ka ng program sa Windows, it will only run on Windows. Once you do a program in Unix, it will run only on Unix. Now, the question is, why applications are OS specific? Sa tingin nyo, bakit yung ginawa mong program sa Windows, hindi mo ma-run sa iOS or sa Mac OS? Ano kaya dahilan? Hmm? Anyone? What seems to be the reason why applications are OS specific? Pag bumili ka ba ng installer, o pwede mong ilagay sa Mac OS? Yung installer mo ba ng Office pwede sa Mac OS?
Hindi po.
Hindi. Okay. Definitely not. Bakit kaya? Hindi nyo pa napapanood yung video? Okay? So, as I see it, no, yung mga estudyante, okay? So, pag asynchronous, hindi po binubuksan yung mga video. Now, malalaman natin ngayon sa short assessment 1 kung ano yung napanood nyo at masasagot nyo yun. Okay? On your short assessment 1, that covers chapter 1. There are 10 questions there. Initially, for now, I'm going to give you 15 minutes. Okay? So after 15 minutes po, maglalak yung exam. Okay? Hindi na po kayo makakapag-submit. Pag hindi kayo nakapag-submit, 0 po yung score nyo. Okay? So, ganun po ang mangyayari mamaya sa short assessment. So, i-enable ko yung exam for say 15 minutes. Ngayon lang yon. Sa susunod po, 10 minutes na lang yan. 10 tanong para sa 10 minuto. 1 minuto kada tanong. Bakit po ganon? Para maiwasan po ang pagtatanungan at pagkokopyahan. Or ma-minimize ko yung pagtatanungan at pagkokopyahan nyo. Okay? So, yun po ang purpose nun. That is why, kung nakinig kayo sa lecture, sa video lecture, masasagot nyo yung tanong. Kung hindi, hindi nyo po masasagot totally. Okay? So, I guess after short assessment 1, magbabago yung pananaw nyo at panunood na kayo ng video lecture. No? Ang dami pong mga estudyante ang hindi nanonood ng video lecture. Take note, ang video lecture po is equivalent to attending a class. At makikita ko yan sa result ng inyong short assessment. Alright? So, going back to my question, why applications are always specific? Because you compile it, okay, and when you compile it, it is using a system services or an operating system services or system calls, which is not available on other operating systems. Okay? So, this does not include web. Okay? Web is basically, kahit saan mo ginawa yan, would it be on Linux or in macOS? If it is a web, it follows certain standards. So, it can be viewable in any platform. Now, we are talking here about applications. Okay? So what I'm saying is, if you create an application for Windows, that is also that will only be run on Windows. Yun po yung sinasabi na why applications are OS specific. Because you use the services of the operating systems when you compiled it. Okay? So, ayan po yan. Okay? Next. So operating system structures. So basically what we have here, your operating systems is driven by a kernel. Okay, a kernel is a program that is running at all times. Okay, so that is the root or the heart of the operating system. When you closes it down, definitely your computer will shut down. Okay, and the operating systems basically communicates with the hardware. Okay, and then the application is communicating with operating systems, and the user communicates with the application, like what we have here. I converse with Facebook application. The Facebook communicates with the operating systems, and the operating systems communicates with the hardware. So that's how it works. We do not have direct access over the hardware. Okay. Next, building and booting an operating systems. So how do we build an operating system? Okay, so basically, as what we're saying, no, there is no problem right now with the current operating systems that we have. So the only challenge that is left on us is if we are going to do something about the current operating systems, what innovations will you do? What innovations will you include on the current operating systems? Because it's almost perfect. Okay, so your operating systems is voice controlled. Your operating systems can be manipulated using mouse. You are using touch screen. So what else can you have there? So maybe in the future you can think about it. I want an operating systems that is maybe race specific. Well, we already have it. Okay. So we can now choose language. Imagine Google, no, Filipino or Cebuano. Diba? They already have dialect on Google. So and time will come, it would be a universal. Okay. So you just have to change the language there. Okay, so if I am Microsoft, I don't have to develop an application intended for Chinese, intended for Japanese. I just have to create one application, and then the user just have to choose what language they want. Okay, meron na po nun. Nag-i-exist na yan. So maybe, right now, ano kaya ang magandang innovations na gagawin nyo sa operating systems? Ano? Okay? Now, booting an operating system is just like starting your operating systems. And if you will observe a brand new installation of Windows, okay, it should be able to load the operating systems in less than 1 minute. Kapag matagal po mag-load yan, okay, ibig sabihin yan, it's either your hardware is aging out, or maybe you have a lot of applications installed on your computer which is not being used by the user, naka-install lang doon. Alam nyo ba na mas maraming naka-install sa computer nyo, mas mabagal, even though you are not using it? Okay? So, if I were you, I have to remove applications which I do not use. Yun po yung sinasabi natin dyan. Ano? Bakit ba kailangan natin mag-install ng applications dyan? Hindi nyo naman ginagamit. Katulad lang ng cellphone nyo. Lahat ba ng applications sa cellphone nyo na-open nyo or nagagamit nyo? No. Di ba?
Hindi po, sir.
Oo. Why not remove that? Sir, baka kasi gamitin namin in the future. Kailan yung future na sinasabi mo? Nakakaldalawang taon na yung computer mo, ay yung cellphone mo sa'yo, hindi mo man lang na-open yung applications na yan. So, you are wasting the resources. Okay? Yun yung sinasabi natin. Okay? So, ang mga naka-install sa computer ko is yung mga applications na ginagamit ko. Now, if in case kailangan ko yun, then that's the time I'm going to install it. Pagkatapos ko na siyang gamitin, pag hindi ko lang ginagamit, I might as well remove it from the cell phone or from the computer. Okay? Now, the operating system debugging, basically, debugging is the way fixing a problem. Okay? So just like in your programming, okay, you have heard the word debugging there. So something like when you compile, you need to debug, no? Nakita mo yung error sa line ganito, pupuntahan mo i-fix mo. So operating system offers the programmers or the end users to define or to debug and find out the errors on the programs they currently develop. Okay? So see how flexible, okay, the operating system is. It's pliant like a bamboo. Okay, very flexible. Okay? And these operating systems are general purpose. It's just that most of us or most of you are servants or slaves of Microsoft. Who amongst you knows how to use Ubuntu? Wala. So lahat tayo maka-Windows, no? Maybe that is because the technology that we have is Windows. Okay? So, ganun tayo, no? But then if I were you being a computer engineering, well, you have to navigate. Don't be a servant or slave of Microsoft. Okay? Because the reality outside, this organization here, most of them, even though it's an enterprise, mayayaman sila, pero mas gusto nila ng mga libre. Okay? So they are using something like the operating systems or Ubuntu. Anyway, what you can do on Windows, you can do it on Ubuntu. The problem is, if you are a developer, nasanay ka sa Windows, you cannot develop an application for Ubuntu. It should be based on Linux. Okay, so see? So those are the instances wherein the applications are specific or OS specific. Okay, so any questions with chapter 2? Next meeting, you're gonna have your short assessment on chapter 2. And on Tuesday, I'm going to introduce the next topic. Wala pa po yun sa YouTube, no? So, ire-record ko pa lang. Maybe tomorrow. So, I'm going to upload it and have it available for next week. The next topic is, I guess, processes. I'm not sure. No? Processes nga ba? Parang ganon. Alright, any questions po?
Wala na.
Okay, so let me check your attendance now. Mhm. Attendance. Ating ERTU naka-down pa rin, ano? Buti na lang pala nakagawa ako ng yung assessment kasi natin nandoon. Okay? So nilipat ko siya sa Google Classroom. Ayan. So, paano lang kung wala tayong alternative, ano? So, buti na lang there are free tools that we can use. So, code CPE. Go to. Batay? Alano?
Present po, sir. Mabatay.
Alano? Alarcon?
Present po.
Alavanzas? Wala. Apuyan? Austria? Borromeo? Cornejo?
Present, sir.
Rosado?
Present po.
Darong? Darong? De Leon?
Present po, sir.
Fortaleza?
Present po.
Garcia?
Sir, present.
Catpunton? Gumiran?
Present po.
Walo?
Present po.
Lanuevo?
Present po.
Legarde?
Present po.
Lander?
Present po.
Ganda na apelyido, Lander. Lumakang?
Present po.
Sangkay?
Present po, sir.
Mauna?
Present po, sir.
Endaño? Endaño? Munda?
Present po.
Navasca?
Present, sir.
Orlando? Orlanda, sorry. Orlanda? Palomares?
Palomeras po, present.
Bulag. Palomeras, baliktad pala, no? Palomares. May surname na Palomares, di ba?
Yes po, sir.
Palomeras. Okay, Panganiban. Silyao.
Present po.
Perlias.
Palias po, sir. Present.
Sorry. Rada. Rada. Wala. Rile. Rile. Romero.
Present po, sir.
Gabriel.
Present po, sir.
Zelda.
Present po.
Valencia.
Present po, sir.
Sino pong hindi natawag or namarkahan ng absent dyan? Say your name. Balikan ko. Rile, Rada. Wala. Orlando. Mendaño. Darong. Darong. Correct. Wala. Romeo. Austria. Puyan. Albanzas. Okay. So, that's it. Okay. So, I hope you are already joined on Google Classroom. Please log into your Google Classroom. Okay. Nakalagin po kayo sa Google Classroom. As what I'm saying, I am only going to give you 15 minutes para po dun sa short assessment 1. Okay? So after 15 minutes, magko-close po yan. So kapag hindi po kayo nag-submit, hindi na kayo yung makaka-submit. Masi-zero po kayo. Alright? So please observe the time. Well, anyway, I will remind you. Okay?
Na-post na po,
Bukas
sir.
na po. Hindi pa po. Kasi kailangan natin mag-start ng on time. So
Okay
it will
po,
be available at 12:55.
Okay po, sir. Thank you po.
Time now is 12:51. Nakasynchronize pa po ba yung mga oras nyo?
12:52 po, sir.
12:52. 12:51 pa lang. No? Well, anyway, that's fine. So I'm going to remind you. Okay, so we are using the server time. Okay, so sige. Let me link it. Due time will be anong oras yan? 12:55, 1 o'clock, 1:10. Okay? Make sure you submit it before 1:10 p.m. Anyway, I'm going to remind you. Due 1:10 p.m. Still have 3 minutes. So, pakibasa po yung direction. Okay, sabihin ko na rin. So, this short assessment is based on Chapter 1, Introduction to Operating Systems. Type all your answers for identification in lowercase letters. Lowercase po. Wala po magta-type dyan ng sentence case or all uppercase. Lahat po naka-lowercase. Okay? Tapos the exam is good for 15 minutes only. So submit the exam before the time specified. The exam will automatically close after 15 minutes. So pag nasaraduhan po kayo ng exam, hindi na po kayo makakapag-submit. Okay, so the exam should be 1 minute per question. So that means you have an allowance of 5 minutes. All right, so it's 12:53. We still have 2 minutes.